He thought she was an easy target, a lone black woman stepping into his gym, a place where power was measured in muscle, and prejudice hid behind the mask of tradition. But when his knee slammed into her stomach mid-class, Rosa Shepard didn't just strike back. She shattered his illusion of untouchable power. And for the first time in his life, the cop who thought he couldn't be touched was pinned down. This wasn't just a jiu-jitsu match, it was judgment. And no badge could save him now. Afternoons at Southbridge Combat Club always began the same. The scent of rubber mats, the screech of sneakers dragging across the floor, and the sharp, timed whistle of Coach Carson, like a conductor, opening a brutal symphony where rank was colored in belts, and your worth was measured by how long you could endure. Walter Keene, 72. A retired Marine, always arrived early. He took his place in the right corner of the wooden bleachers, legs crossed over a heavy bag, sipping black coffee from a chipped thermos. He didn't train anymore. Didn't have to. But watching the younger ones sweat in silence gave him a sense that the world still had rules. That day, someone new walked in. A black woman. Quiet. Wearing a faded baseball cap, a gray hoodie, and carrying a gym bag too big for her frame. She didn't scan the room for friendly faces. She didn't try to make herself small. She walked straight to the front desk. Rosa Shepard. She said calm, low, and clear. "I'm here for the class I registered for." Troy, the blonde assistant behind the desk, looked up from the screen and frowned a little. "This isn't one of those women's self-defense things," he muttered, half joking. She didn't respond, just handed him her confirmation slip. "Locker rooms to your left," Troy said, unsettled by the silence. Walter watched her steps measured, firm. She moved like someone who had walked into far worse rooms than this. Behind him, a rough laugh echoed. "Let me guess," said Brent Maddox. A long-time officer and even longer-time loudmouth. Another social justice warrior coming to rebalance the system. Brent was a regular here, loud, jacked, and too confident in how much space he took up. Ex-military, now a seasoned cop. He knew exactly what his privilege was and how to weaponize it. "Put her on the mat," Brent sneered, eyeing Walter. "They all think a few push-ups makes them our equal." Walter didn't reply. His gaze stayed fixed on the corridor to the training mat, where Rosa now tied a white belt around her waist. Her eyes scanned the room not nervously, but like she was measuring every angle, calculating. The class began. Coach Carson split the students into pairs. Rosa was matched with Luke, a 19-year-old with more testosterone than technique. Their first drill clinch control. Rosa didn't back down, didn't over-defend. She absorbed every shove with a centered calm, not resisting, not yielding. But Brent hovered nearby, watching, smirking. When the drill shifted to grappling techniques, Brent raised his voice louder than necessary. "Coach, mind if I pair with her?" he called out with forced cheer. "Give her a little real-life application, some hands-on mentoring." Coach Carson nodded. Maybe he knew what Brent was doing. Maybe he didn't. But nobody objected. Rosa faced Brent on the mat. They touched hands per protocol, but no warmth passed between them. Brent closed the distance instantly, body pressing hard into hers, trying to force her back. Rosa pivoted, adjusting, but Brent seized the moment, lifting a knee and slamming it directly into her stomach. It wasn't jiu-jitsu. It wasn't part of the drill. It was a hit. Silence spread through the gym. Luke's mouth fell open. Troy yanked out his earbuds. Coach Carson blinked, then said nothing. Brent leaned close, almost brushing Rosa's ear as she steadied herself. "Know your place, butch," he muttered, just loud enough for Walter. 10 paces away. To hear. Rosa stood. Slowly. No words. No flinch. She returned to her stance with a single nod, as if nothing had happened. Brent smirked and strutted back to his buddies. But Walter didn't look away, didn't blink. He'd seen that look before. In Fallujah, in Kandahar. The look of someone who had tasted pain and didn't need to scream to say, "I won't run, and I won't forgive." The next day, Rosa came back. Not early, not late. She entered the dojo like yesterday's blow had just been another motion in a training sequence. But Walter knew better. No one took a hit like that and returned empty. Whether it was rage or something deeper, something unnamed, it came back with her. Brent was there, too. Same navy hoodie, same expensive cross-training shoes, same smug grin that seemed stitched to his face. He acted like nothing happened. Just another class. Another chance to flex his senior status. "She came back," Troy whispered to Luke. "She's tough. Maybe she's not like the rest of us," Luke muttered, distracted, but something in his voice hinted at a growing awareness. That day's lesson was counter-control, how to reverse wrist holds. Rosa was paired with Omar, a quiet guy with solid technique and not much to say. But no one was watching them. All eyes drifted to the far right side of the mat, where Brent had just executed a sweep so aggressive it sent his partner face first to the floor. Brent never looked at Rosa, but Rosa felt it. People like him, when brute force failed, they turned to subtler weapons. Glances, comments, silent challenges. And eventually, the next hit would come outside the rules. During the class break, Walter left the bleachers. He stepped outside, leaned against the flagpole, and lit a forbidden Cuban cigar, an old habit his doctor told him to quit 10 years ago. But today, he needed it. The memories clung like dust. Ashau Valley. 1970. He remembered seeing a white officer shoot a black soldier in the back and report it as enemy crossfire. No investigation. No voice raised. He'd been 17 then. And it was the day he learned the law only existed for the man holding the pen. "Uncle Keen," a voice called from behind. It was Cody, his nephew, former FBI analyst. Walked away 2 years ago after a leak scandal scorched his career. "What are you thinking about?" Walter didn't answer right away. He stared into the hazy sky resting over the gym's tin roof. "You know Brent Maddox." Cody nodded. "He came up in FBI logs once. Louisiana incident. Case got buried." Walter's brow furrowed. Louisiana 2011. A black man military nurse was beaten unconscious at a gas station by an off-duty cop. The case vanished, but the internal file noted boot prints matching tactical police soles and submission techniques from a special unit. Walter's gaze hardened. What was the victim's name? Cody pulled out his phone, scrolled, and paused. Marcus Shepard. That night, Rosa stood alone beside the old punching bag in the rear lot. No one else remained. Only the soft yellow light from the parking lot lit her face, casting shadows that blurred the edges of everything. Walter joined her. Said nothing at first. Just stood nearby. After a while, his voice came low and steady. "Marcus Shepard. What is he to you?" She turned, not flinching, not hiding. "My ex-husband." Walter gripped the top of his polished wooden cane. Brent Rosa nodded, voice flat as calm water. "I knew it the moment I saw him, but I couldn't prove it. Not then. Not now. What's left other than my word?" Walter didn't pity her. What passed between them wasn't weakness, it was recognition, carved from shared experience. "And yet, you still come here, to train alongside him." "No," Rosa said, her voice dropping an octave. I come here to give him one last chance. To change. Or to be exposed. Walter nodded slowly. You've got the skills to deal with him. I saw it in your eyes. Dealing with someone isn't about breaking them, Rosa replied. It's about making them see themselves fully before there's no one left to forgive them. 2 days later, Coach Carson announced a Live Technique exhibition, a light sparring showcase where students could demonstrate their skills in front of guests. Brent signed up first. Strangely, so did Rosa. And she didn't just sign up, she picked her opponent. Brent Maddox. Gasps swept the gym, but no one intervened. Coach Carson, usually the type to avoid conflict, just nodded stiffly. Saturday night. The training hall was packed tighter than ever. Some uniformed city cops were in attendance. A few instructors from a nearby military camp had shown up. 2. On the sidelines. Cody quietly clipped a GoPro to his shirt collar. Everything was set. Brent strode in, clapping his hands, smirking. You sure about this? He said loud enough for the crowd. I'd hate to be accused of bullying a vulnerable woman. Rosa didn't answer. She stepped onto the mat, bowed properly. Brent didn't bow. Instead, he raised a clenched fist and leaned in. This time, he whispered, No one's coming to save you. Rosa stepped onto the mat like a quiet wind. No wasted motion, no searching for allies. She bowed, retied her white belt, the lowest rank in Jiu-Jitsu. But anyone watching closely could see it, the bend in her knees, the grounded stance. This wasn't the posture of a novice. It was the poise of someone who didn't need a belt to prove anything. Off the mat. Walter sat next to Cody, eyes fixed on Rosa. You said she used to be what again? Walter asked, barely louder than a whisper, like he needed to confirm what his instincts already knew. FEMA Special Response Unit, Cody replied. High clearance hand-to-hand instructor. She trained counterinsurgency teams in Mosul, Sirte, Urban Ops. And now she's a white belt. At this club, Walter muttered. She's never said a word about it. Cody said, no bragging, no requests for exceptions. Walter leaned back, eyes widening. She's not wearing white for ignorance, he said. It's strategy. She's waiting for him to hang himself. Brent struck first. He knew Rosa had technique, but he also knew the exhibition rules were loose. No points. No strict refs. Just demonstration with a dash of decorum. He closed the distance fast, pressing his forearm into her chest in a control grip thinly veiled with something more vile. Rosa stepped back, didn't counter, didn't flinch. She was studying him. Brent grew impatient. He swept at her ankle, hard. She shifted, stayed upright. Still no retaliation. Just silence. Stillness. Like a trap waiting for its trigger. Up in the monitoring room, Cody quietly opened his laptop. He was live streaming the match to a private network 2 members of the city's police ethics committee were watching. He clicked on a file labeled Brent Louisiana Report 2011.pdf. Rosa could sense it. Brent was unraveling. His breath grew ragged, uneven. His moves no longer crisp. His ego was driving his arms now, not his mind. He lunged, took her down, not with finesse, but brute force, a full-body slam meant to humiliate. She hit the mat in a perfect breakfall, shoulder first. No head contact, no damage. But Brent didn't stop. He threw a hard kick into her ribs. Gasps rippled through the room. Coach Carson stood. Luke blurted, "Oh, damn." Brent crouched low beside Rosa. "You still want to test me?" "Betch," he hissed. Rosa raised an arm, shielding her face, a silent image of surrender. Brent laughed, turned his back, raised both hands like he'd just won. But in the very next breath, Rosa was airborne, a kip-up, executed clean like a veteran. 2 silent steps forward. She touched his left shoulder, light as air. Brent turned confused, and that's when she slid underneath, looped around, and locked him in a slide-in loop choke and advanced rear-angle submission that required flow, timing, and precision, not brute strength. The room went still. Brent writhed, but Rosa didn't use force. She used control weight distribution, posture, grip, all the hallmarks of mastery. Walter whispered, "Military doesn't teach that. That's Spectre protocol." Brent tapped 3 times. Rosa released him instantly. He collapsed, gasping, face red with fury and shame. But Rosa didn't walk away. She reached into her jai, pulled out a folded document, placed it squarely on his chest. Most thought it was a letter, maybe a note of peace, a parting word. But Cody knew better. It was the internal report, stamped by the Department of Military Justice. Victim, Marcus Shepard. Officer Brent Maddox. Injury, unconscious. Brain hemorrhage. Finding insufficient evidence for prosecution due to camera loss. But included was a witness statement. Tall white officer, brown hair, military boots, skull tattoo behind left ear. Walter looked at Brent's neck. The ink was still there, a faded skull gray with age. After the match, Coach Carson walked out without a word. Walter waited by the door. "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. Carson stared into the dusk. "I used to think I was keeping this place clean. Maybe I was just keeping it quiet." Walter nodded. "Then it's your choice now, reputation or justice." Carson didn't respond. But moments later, the member list on the club's board had one name scratched off: Brent Maddox. That night, Rosa walked home alone. No fanfare, just her worn gym bag and a small cardboard box. Inside the box were a pair of scuffed military boots, Marcus's, and a faded letter, never mailed, on it. In Marcus's handwriting, "If you ever see him again, don't strike him. Let him reveal himself." 3 days after the exhibition match, Brent Maddox vanished from the training floor. No one asked. No one missed him. But Rosa knew that kind of silence was more dangerous than a room full of insults. She'd seen this before, in Syria. When a special ops officer crossed the line, he didn't flee. He was granted leave so the system could fold around him like armor. Cody knew it too, and he had no intention of letting that cycle repeat. City Attorney's Office, District 6, Boston. Cody sat alone, eyes fixed on the screen, external hard drive plugged in, untouched coffee at his side. His palm was flat on the desk, holding down the tremor. He had just broken into the internal records of IA, the Internal Affairs Network of the State Police. One name appeared across 5 internal reports over 12 years: Maddox, Brent D. 2011, Baton Rouge. Assault on civilian Marcus Shepard, died 36 hours later. No charges filed. 2014, mobile off-duty firearm discharge, target unverified. 2016, Atlanta. Complaint of physical assault on black woman during ID check. No footage. 2018, Chicago weapon lost during duty, stolen. 2020, Boston. Complaint of coerced confession in holding cell, dismissed due to insufficient evidence. 5 incidents. 5 times. He walked away. Cody clenched his jaw, opened the off-record witness tab. A name was redacted, but he knew how to crack the mask. 10 minutes of decrypting later, whistleblower Anon Hayes. Rosa. Back in Walter's modest study walls lined with medals and yellowing service documents, Cody laid everything out on the table. Walter reviewed each page. Every faded scan, every timestamp. "What do you think he asked?" Cody's voice was lower than usual. "He's not just protected. He's been selected, handpicked by a system that promotes exactly this kind of man. Some high-ranking officers wrote letters to defend him," Cody added. Walter was silent. Then he reached into the drawer, pulled out a photo from a time most had forgotten. In it, a young white soldier flanked by two black officers. One was Walter, the other, Marcus Shepard. We saved that boy's life in Iraq. 2005. He was nobody back then. Cody froze. Brent Walter nodded grimly. I thought he'd get discharged. But within a year, he was back hired as a cop. Someone cleared the path for him and buried everyone who tried to speak up. Marcus, Cody asked. He knew something, but he never got the chance to say it. Rosa's phone rang at 3:08 a.m. Unknown number. A hoarse male voice answered her hello. If you still want to train at that gym, stay out of other people's pasts. No one remembers 2011. No one needs to. No one cares who Marcus Shepard was. If you keep digging, just remember Brent isn't just a soldier or a cop anymore. He's system property. And the system doesn't get choked out with wrist locks. Click. Line went dead. The next morning, a fire partially consumed the records room at the West Haven precinct. Official cause: electrical short. Brent's files from 2011 to 2016 were declared unrecoverable. Cody watched the news and clenched his fists. They're clearing the trail. Rosa didn't say a word. She reached into her coat and pulled out a thin folder of Marcus's documents. Originals. A gift he'd left her before he disappeared. Inside was a letter, handwritten. If I don't make it back, don't let him live like no one's blood ever stained his shoes. And a military evaluation, unofficial but clearly snapped from a numbered internal file. It read Officer Maddox was considered for counterinsurgency training, but flagged for extreme force tendencies. Recommendation, not suitable for special response units. Rosa stared at the page. So he was rejected by the military, but hired as a cop, and rose just high enough to erase his tracks. That evening, Rosa's phone buzzed again. It was Coach Carson. His voice was low, tired. Someone from the Jiu-Jitsu Federation came to see me. Said Brent's international coach certification was fake. You knew that from the beginning, didn't you? Rosa responded softly. I knew the moment he kicked me. No trained grappler throws a strike like that unless they were never taught how to control force. What are you going to do? Carson asked. Rosa looked out her window. Night covered the city like smoke. Somewhere, a siren wept in the distance. It's not what I'm going to do, she said. It's what I've already decided. I'm stepping forward, publicly, under my real name, and I'm going to tell the truth, all of it. The hearing took place in an unmarked room on the third floor of an aging federal building in downtown Boston. No press, no cameras. Only 3 people were allowed to record, one from the Massachusetts State Police Ethics Board, one from the U.S. Department of Justice, and the sole principal witness, her name, Rosa Hayes. She entered wearing a sleeveless white shirt, her hair tied back in a precise bun. No lipstick, no sunglasses, only her eyes steady, sharp, and still, like a winter lake just before it freezes. Across from her sat Brent Maddox, hands clasped tightly, his private attorney beside him, stiff as marble, nodded once and said nothing more the entire session. At the head of the table, the state ethics representative began. This hearing is not a trial, but its recording may be submitted to a grand jury if criminal charges are pursued. Miss Hayes, do you agree to proceed? Rosa nodded. And do you confirm your testimony is voluntary, uncoerced, and uncompensated in any way? Rosa locked eyes with Brent. No one forced me to speak the truth. Only I decided that I'd been silent for too long. Cody sat behind her in the gallery, hand resting on a hard drive recorder, gaze fixed on Brent's every twitch. Walter was present, too silent, unmoving, the last living witness to both Marcus Shepard and the country that failed him. And Rosa began. No dramatics, no rage, only clarity. She recounted the kick on the Jiu-Jitsu mat. Not an accident. A message. The whispers behind her back. She doesn't belong here. The anonymous 3 a.m. call clearly made by someone who knows the law, but doesn't respect it. Then, she paused, reached into her bag and pulled out a small silver USB stick. This drive contains full internal reports from 2011 to 2020 related to Mr. Brent Maddox. They were removed from the IA system 3 days ago under the guise of technical maintenance. But I have the complete archive. The room went silent. Also included is audio from a locker room conversation at Southbridge Combat Club, where Mr. Maddox casually referred to making sure a man never got back up again. Rosa glanced at Brent's attorney. The man had gone pale but said nothing. She continued. About Marcus Shepard, the unsent letter, the blood-dried boots. She held up a photograph. In it, Marcus stood between Walter and Brent. 2005. To Crete. Rosa tapped the table. Marcus didn't die by accident. He died because a system chose silence over accountability. One committee member asked, "Are you implying Mr. Maddox was protected by the system?" Rosa didn't answer right away. She stared at Brent. For the first time, he looked down. Nobody survives 5 internal investigations unless someone clears the path. She paused. Her voice dropped not out of weakness, but to give the final words weight. I'm not a hero. I'm a survivor of war, and of the wars we don't admit exist. But I know one thing: if Brent Maddox walks away again, then every person in this room has chosen to stand on the side of silence. No one clapped, no one breathed too loudly. They understood this wasn't testimony, it was indictment. Brent stood, starting to leave. But a voice echoed from the doorway. "Sit down." A tall man in a DOJ badge stepped in, accompanied by a silver-decorated officer in dress uniform. "I'm Colonel Morrison, Inspector General's office. Effective immediately. Mr. Maddox is suspended from all enforcement authority. His firearm license is revoked. He is under federal investigation for systemic use of excessive force against civilians." Brent opened his mouth, but Rosa was already rising. "Don't bother. Marcus once told me the men who never admit fault usually fall to the weight of their own shadow." 3 weeks later, headlines filled the Boston Newswire. Officer Brent Maddox indicted on 3 felony counts, terminated from force. DOJ opens federal probe into purged police complaints and state internal systems at Southbridge Combat Club. A new plaque was hung beside the sign-in board. No title is worth anything if it's used to hide brutality. And beneath it, written in hand, Rosa Hayes' white belt, former first responder, still standing.